just a quick video on how to increase and decrease a number by a percentage. That's your work this week on MathsWatch and the Share My Homework quiz as well. Our first thing to remind ourselves of is how we are going to find those percentages. So if we start at 50%, the easiest way of finding 50% of a number is to divide by 2. If I'm trying to find 25%, I can think of this in two different ways. I can either divide by 4 or by half whatever I found for 50%. Depends on the number. Dividing a number by 4 might be a little bit tricky, so we can half it and half it again. So 5% I would work out by finding 50% and then add into that 25%. That will give me a total of 75. If I'm looking for 10%, then I just divide by 10. If I'm looking for 5%, I can half 10%. And 1% would be divided by number 100. Every other percentage is achievable by doing a mixture of these. So if I wanted 20%, I could double 10%, and I can get any other mixture, especially using 1%. So my first questions, are to increase. So increase means I'm going to add on. So it could be that a product has become more expensive to produce, so therefore the price has to increase. So my first question says increase 40 by 30%. So I first need to find 30%. Now the ones that we know to find easy, I could use 10%. Now 40 divided by 10 is 4. Now I'm hoping that we can start to see, well, if I want 30%, then I need 3 lots of that. So 4 times 3 to find 30% would be 12. So an increase would mean I need to do 40 add 12 to leave me with an answer of 52. Okay, so if it was a product that's risen in cost, it would cost £52 instead. So an increase, you should be looking at a bigger number. So I'm going to increase 40 again, but this is 2%, so it's going to be a much bigger number. So 50% is a really good starting point. So 50%, half of 40, 20. And then the 2% I could find by doing a 1% and then a 1%. So 40 divided by 100. Here we did 40 divided by 10. And that was 4. So 40 divided by 100 must mean, and I need to make sure I line that up properly. Okay, it will leave me with a pen that doesn't work. 0.4 for both of those two. So if I add that up, that's 52%. So if I add this up, I'm left with 20.8. So if I add that onto 40, you might not want to do column addition. You might be able to see that in your head. That's absolutely fine. But 60.8. If it was a product, obviously it'd be £60.80. So if I was writing it in terms of money, I'd need to be really careful and make sure I put the 0 placeholder at the end to show that there's no pennies, because the 8s is in the tens column. Okay, so just be wary of that, particularly on MathsWatch when you're answering questions. So our next questions then are both decrease. So this means it's going to go down. The likelihood of you getting a decrease question is quite high. It tends to be a sale question. So if something's in the sale, it's been reduced, it's got a decrease. So decrease 150 by 40%. So my starting point is going to be 10%. So 150 divided by 10 is 15. And last time, if I want 40%, I can times that by 4. So 40%, 4 15s, double it and double it again, is 60. So I can do a decrease, which means I need to subtract the 60. Okay, again, you don't need to do column subtraction. It can be very accurate, especially if the numbers get a little bit tricky. So I can't do 586, so I've borrowed to leave me with 90. So if that was in the sale, it's been decreased from £150 to £90, for example. Next one, I've got 150 again, but this time I'm in 85%. So I'm going to start with 50%. So half of 150, 75. Okay, if you're not sure, half 100, half 50, add those bits together. Now, I still need to find myself another 35% to get to 85. So I'm going to do 25%. So I'm going to half 75. Now, if you're not sure or struggle to half numbers like 75, my best suggestion is to jot down what you're doing. So half of 70 is 35, so I'm just going to put it right over here out of the way. And then half of the 5 is 2.5. So that leaves me with 37.5. Now I've got 75% here, so I still need another 10% to get me to 85%. 10% of 150, we actually worked it out for this question up here, so it's useful to use numbers we've already worked out, is 15. Now if I add all these together, it will give me the total of 85%. So be careful about your lining up. It makes adding up far easier. 5 and 5 is 10, and that's 17, so I've got a 7 and a carried one. It's 10, 11, 12. So a decrease, I need to now do 150, subtract 127.5. Put placeholder, and I have to borrow from the 5 and then borrow from the 10 that way, or exchange, whatever it is that you might call it. 10 take 5 is 5, 9 take 7 is 2, 4 take 2 is 2, and then 1 take 1 leaves me with 0. So my answer to that one is 22.5. Your questions on Maths Watch this week are exactly the same thing as is the quiz on Show My Homework. Have a good go at it. Email me if you need anything, whatever that might be, and I will do my best to help answer your questions. Good luck. Enjoy.